All right. This week's lesson is going to focus on the Divine Comedy by Dante. Many times when you hear or someone refer to the Divine Comedy, they might talk about it in terms of Dante's Inferno. Dante's Inferno is part of the Divine Comedy. It's one third of the Divine Comedy is broken up into three parts: the Inferno, the Purgatory, and Heaven. We're only going to focus on the first part, Dante's Inferno. Let's go ahead and continue. All right, so there are five essential questions. Just want to kind of inform you for the Divine Comedy. What is sin? Are there different levels of sin? Two, should there be a relationship between sin and punishment? Three, is justice delivered by punishment only? Four, what is a more important value, faith or reason? And then number five, how does allegory function to deliver a powerful message in a literary work? All right. One of the things that we start off with generally when we talk about any literary piece is to kind of give you some background information on that literary piece and then also by doing that, focus on what those things that we call the must knows. The must knows are those the basic information that everybody should know about a particular. So let's focus on the author. The author, of course, is Dante, and Dante was an Italian poet. Um, he was considered one of the first to write his literary classic in his native tongue versus Latin. Remember, in the background information said that Latin was the primary language of the medieval era, um, primarily of the nobility and of the clergy. And so he was um, involved in the political scene in Florence at that time. And there was a conflict between individuals that supported the Pope and individuals that supported the Holy Roman Emperor. And Dante happened to be on the side of the individuals that supported the Holy Roman Emperor. And so when the supporters of the Pope won, he was then banished from Florence for a period of time. All right. The next thing we need to know is the genre. Genre meaning division, classification, type, or category. And so the Divine Comedy can be classified or categorized into two categories. Um, an epic, which we're familiar with, a long narrative poem. We've talked about that several times this semester. We've read several examples: the Sumerian, the Greek, and the Roman. But then we're introduced to a new genre, which is the allegory. An allegory is a work in which characters, objects, and events have figurative as well as literal meanings. And to kind of give you a quick example, um, Dante literally is the author of Dante's Inferno, the Divine Comedy. He's a in real life person. All right. But now, in terms of him being an allegory, Dante is also a character in the story. He's the primary character in the Divine Comedy. And in this particular sense, Dante figuratively is a representation of mankind, of all humankind. And so, in essence, in the story, there's a real Dante, the actual author, and then you have Dante, the character, who is an allegory of humanity. So the character represents all of us, mankind, humankind. The setting of Dante's Inferno, or the Divine Comedy, takes place in about 1300 CE, and most scholars believe that it takes place over the Easter weekend, so Good Friday all the way to Easter Sunday. That his whole trip the through the Inferno, through Purgatory, through Heaven, it takes place in those during that time period. And as we said before, the Inferno, as of course, is just another word for hell. All right, the Divine Comedy. Here are the characters, and here's where we start talking about allegory. So we have several characters here. Dante, author of the Divine Comedy, he's also the protagonist, but he's a representation, an allegory of all humankind. Then we have Virgil, who we're familiar with as the Roman poet who wrote the Aeneid. He's also a character in the story, and he serves as Dante's guide through the underworld or through the inferno or through hell. And he is an allegory or representation. He represents human reason or logic. And so as you start reading the story, you'll get the connections there. And then you have Beatrice, and Beatrice is an actual person. She happened to be somebody that Dante fell in love with at an early age when he was younger, and she's a character in the story. She serves as Dante's guide later on through heaven, and she is a representation of faith and grace. And when you read, like I said, when you read the canto number one, and when Virgil explains to him why he's even guiding him through the underworld or the inferno, and it's because Beatrice brought Dante to Mary's attention, and they provided him that grace to be able to move through, being one of the only human beings to move through these three areas. All right, there's a couple of themes here that we just want you to pay attention to. Life as a journey is a theme. Salvation through repentance, rehabilitation, and this whole idea of love. We talked about this medieval. All right, so one of the central questions that is addressed in Dante's Inferno deals with the eternal, the centuries old question that we still even struggle with to this day. And so this whole idea of hell. All right. Is hell a literal place and like that's burning on fire right now, or is it something that's coming in the future? And no two people have the same ideas of hell. And so there are individuals, as you can see in this picture here, is hell a literal place? Or is hell a state of mind? And so here, or a condition. And so here you have somebody that is on hooked up to all kinds of machines, keeping him alive. Now, for this person, that would be hell. Hell then as a condition, all right? He's in hell. He's not peaceful. He's unhappy. He could die. He could be in pain. All right. When we shift over and look at this picture here, you have a bunch of kids who are looking for food or looking for food in a garbage dump or trash dump. Now, for these kids, life is hell because they have to go to a trash dump to get food. All right. What about in this situation? Here you have a couple here, and as you can see here, there is domestic violence going on. So if hell is a condition or a state of mind, well, in a condition, in this case, this lady here, this relationship that she's in, that's hell for her because he's beating on her. And then over here, you have a person who's suffering from some kind of mental illness. And that for them, the mental illness, the pain that they feel mentally, maybe not physically, maybe a combination of physical and mental, but for them, this condition that they're in can also be considered hell. And then there's some individuals that, in terms of look at from the religious view, um, hell being maybe not a literal place, maybe not a condition of state of mind, but just the whole idea of being separated from God. People on this side, God on this side, and when man sinned, that direct connection to God was broken, and so that separation from God is hell. All right. And so when we talk about sin as it relates to the Divine Comedy, we're talking about it from the medieval view, because we have to understand that certain theological, religious, and theological ideas have changed over the centuries, have evolved over the centuries. A lot of it evolved based on the Protestant Reformation, but this was the medieval way from 300 CE to 1450 CE. This is in essence how they thought. And so there was this whole idea in terms of sin, this whole concept of original sin, and that all human beings were born sinful, and that we have to go through a series or do a series of things to absolve ourselves of this sin through either baptism, through confession, and prayer. All right, and then during the medieval era, there were some things that they practiced to ensure that you could that you could ensure that could be saved from sin, which involved repentance, which involved confession, and which involved penance or pain or doing something to demonstrate that you have repented from sins, whether that's going on a holy pilgrimage, fasting, or even paying money. All right. Going back to the original question, well, what is hell from the Divine Comedy? Interesting enough, um, various religions, I might say, looked at hell differently. For example, in Judaism, they never had a concept of hell until the Hellenistic period. And the Hellenistic period was the time of the Greeks, when the Greeks dominated the world scene. And currently, they have no modern doctrine. Christianity, the Roman Catholic Church preached immortality of the soul. And then Protestantism, on the other hand, preached more conditional immortality. Islam, there were seven layers. Buddhism, there are five realms. Hinduism, they looked at it as a place of punishment for sin. In Dante's Inferno, medieval view of hell, you can see here, they had one, two, well, not limbo. Let's say one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. There were eight levels. There were eight levels. And so the idea was that there were certain, they kind of measured and weighed and kind of looked at sin differently. So sin wasn't sin as in the modern version. So in the modern world era, we look at sin as being equal across the board. During the medieval era, they weighted certain ones. And so the worse the sin, the closer you were down to Satan. So Satan was down here. And the worse the sin, the closer you were to Satan. But interesting enough, they consider treachery to be a worse sin than any of all these up here. Some people say lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, heresy, violence. And as you will see in some of Dante's Inferno, some of the people that were caught up in certain levels of sin. Like a man, for example, a man comes in and he finds his wife in bed with his brother, and he, out of anger, kills the wife and the brother, and he ends up down here, but the brother and the wife end up here. And some people would say, what is the fairness? Where is the fairness? That's not fair, you know? And that's when it gets to one of those essential questions that we mentioned before. All right. Dante's Inferno also deals with the whole idea of divine justice, why hell was even created. You'll see that in Dante's Inferno. And then we move into Canto 1. All right. So at this point, I'm going to end the presentation and you will then begin reading Dante's Inferno.